The massive Imperial scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Its golden hull gleamed in the distant sunlight as it began its standard scanning procedures. Inside the ship's command center, First Scout Robert stood before the large viewing screen, his purple eyes widening at the readings from the third planet. "Most interesting," he muttered, adjusting his silver uniform. "Life signs are strong, but their technology seems primitive. Only a few space stations and a small colony on their moon." He tapped his fingers on the control panel, bringing up more detailed scans. The scout ship's AI processed the data quickly. "Sir, the civilization appears to be at level 3 development. They have basic space travel but are confined to their solar system. No signs of faster-than-light technology detected." Robert smiled. In the 10,000 years of the Galactic Empire's existence, they had encountered hundreds of such civilizations. All had joined the Empire peacefully, eager to gain access to advanced technology and trade routes. This would be no different. Behind Jupiter, hidden in the gas giant's magnetic field, Captain Lisa of the Earth Defense Force watched the Imperial scout ship through advanced stealth sensors. Her ship, the EDF Phantom, was completely invisible to Imperial scans. She spoke quietly into her neural comm, connecting with Earth's defense network. "They're following the exact pattern intelligence predicted," she reported. "Running basic scans, but their sensors can't penetrate our stealth fields. They have no idea we're here." Back on the Imperial scout ship, Robert prepared his report for Admiral Marcus of the Empire's expansion fleet. The Admiral's hologram appeared in the command center, his tall figure radiating authority even through the projection. "Report, First Scout," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of Imperial tradition. "Admiral, we found another developing world," Robert said. "The species calls themselves humans. They've achieved basic spaceflight, but show no signs of advanced technology. Their energy readings are unusual, but nothing concerning. They would make an excellent addition to the Empire." Admiral Marcus nodded, reviewing the data on his end. "Any signs of military capability?" "Minimal, sir. A few primitive satellites. Some basic weapons systems. Nothing that could challenge even our smallest ships." Robert paused, then added, "Though there are some strange energy fluctuations around their gas giant. Probably natural phenomena." The Admiral's hologram smiled. "Excellent. This will be an easy addition to our peaceful expansion. Prepare for the arrival of the main fleet. We'll give them our standard offer. Join the Empire willingly and receive our technology and protection, or face isolation from galactic society." Inside Earth's Defense Command, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Wilson watched the Imperial communications with amusement. Earth's quantum computers had broken their encryption in minutes. The aliens' technology was impressive, but it was developed through millennia of peace. They had never needed to advance their military technology beyond the basics of planetary defense. "Should we reveal ourselves, sir?" asked Major Thompson, standing at attention beside the general's desk. Wilson shook his head, watching as more Imperial ships began arriving at the edge of the solar system. "Not yet. Let them come closer. Let them think they have the upper hand." He looked at the tactical display, showing Earth's true military capability. Thousands of stealth ships hidden throughout the solar system, quantum weapons platforms disguised as debris, and defense systems that had been tested in countless war games. "We'll give them one chance to leave peacefully," Wilson said. "One morning, because we're not monsters. We don't want war." He paused, watching the Imperial fleet grow larger. "But if they choose to ignore our warning, well, they'll learn why humanity's history of constant warfare has made us different from every species they've ever encountered." The Imperial ships continued their approach, their golden hulls forming a majestic sight against the backdrop of space. They had no idea they were flying into the most defended solar system in known space. They had no idea that their primitive prey had already mapped their weaknesses, broken their codes, and prepared countermeasures for every weapon in their arsenal. They would learn soon enough. Admiral Marcus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Glory, admiring the view of the blue planet ahead. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, its white clouds swirling over blue oceans. The invasion fleet had assembled, 50 of the Empire's finest ships arranged in perfect formation. "Send the standard greeting," he ordered. "Offer them the chance to join our civilization peacefully." The communications officer nodded and began transmitting the message. Suddenly, every screen on the bridge flickered. The Imperial logo disappeared, replaced by a simple image of a human face. Captain Jack Walker of the Earth Defense Force looked directly at them through the transmission. Marcus stepped back, surprised. "How did they access our systems? This is impossible." "Greetings, Admiral Marcus," Jack said calmly. "We've been watching you since you entered our solar system. We've studied your history, your technology, and your tactics. We know everything about the Galactic Empire." The bridge crew stared in shock. Their communication systems were supposed to be unhackable, yet this supposedly primitive species had taken control of them with ease. "We know you've conquered 10,000 worlds," Jack continued. "We know none of them fought back. We know you've never faced a real war." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We're different." Admiral Marcus found his voice. "You dare threaten the Imperial fleet? We have enough firepower to reduce your cities to ash." Jack smiled, but his eyes remained serious. "Look at your secondary screens, Admiral." Every other display on the bridge came to life. Each showed a different scene from human history. Ancient battles with swords and spears, medieval sieges, world wars with tanks and planes, modern conflicts with drones, and cyber warfare. Centuries of combat, innovation, and adaptation played out before the Imperial crew's eyes. "In your 10,000 years of peace," Jack said, "humanity has fought more wars than your empire has years. We've killed our own kind in numbers that would horrify you. We've invented weapons that would give your scientists nightmares. And we've learned from every drop of blood spilled." The images change, showing Earth's true military capability. Stealth ships decloaked around the Imperial fleet, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light itself. Weapon platforms emerged from hiding, their quantum cannons already charged. The Empire's superior fleet was surrounded. "We could have destroyed your scout ship the moment it arrived," Jack explained. "We could have let you come closer and eliminated your entire fleet. But we're not like you. We don't want unnecessary bloodshed." In Earth's Defense Command, General Wilson watched the transmission with approval. They had hoped the Empire would be smart enough to understand what they were seeing. The Empire had grown soft in its millennia of peaceful expansion. They had never needed to develop true military technology or tactics. Back on the Imperial Glory, Admiral Marcus gripped his command chair tightly. "What do you want?" "We want you to leave," Jack answered simply. "Go back to your empire. Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that Earth is not like the other worlds you found. Tell them that we've spent our entire history preparing for threats like you. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to." The images on the screens changed one final time, showing simulations of what would happen if the Empire chose to attack. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against Earth's kinetic kill vehicles. Their formation, perfect for intimidating peaceful worlds, made them vulnerable to swarm tactics. Their communications, secure against known threats, were already compromised. "This is not a threat, Admiral," Jack said quietly. "This is a warning. From one sentient species to another. We've studied you, and we know you're not evil. You're just inexperienced. For your own sake, for the sake of your crew and your empire, run." The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial bridge in silence. Admiral Marcus looked at the seemingly empty space around his fleet, knowing now that it was anything but empty. For the first time in his long career, he felt true fear, not of the weapons pointed at his ships, but of the realization that everything he knew about warfare and power was wrong. The Empire had never faced a species born in war. They were about to learn why that mattered. Admiral Marcus paced on his bridge, his pride wrestling with his fear. 6 hours had passed since the humans' warning, but he couldn't bring himself to retreat. No primitive species had ever dared to threaten the Empire. "Sir," his second-in-command spoke up, "perhaps we should consider their warning. Their technology seems more advanced than we thought." "Nonsense," Marcus snapped. "They're bluffing. Those ships they showed us, probably just holograms. Set the fleet in attack formation. We'll show them what real power looks like." In the darkness of space, Lieutenant Anna Stone watched the Imperial ships moving from her stealth vessel, the Shadow. She spoke quietly into her comm. "They're not backing down, General. Permission to proceed with the demonstration." General Wilson's voice crackled through the secure channel. "Permission granted. Remember, no casualties. Just show them what they're dealing with." Anna smiled. Her ship, barely larger than a fighter, carried weapons that could have destroyed the entire Imperial fleet. But that wasn't the point of today's lesson. "Beginning demonstration," she reported. The Shadow moved silently through space, completely invisible to Imperial sensors. Their technology, developed through peaceful expansion, had never needed to detect ships designed for actual warfare. On the Imperial Glory, alarms suddenly blared. "Admiral," the sensor officer shouted, "we're detecting energy spikes near our rear ships." Before Marcus could respond, 3 of his largest dreadnoughts went dark. Their lights flickered and died, their engines stopped, and their artificial gravity failed. 10,000 crew members found themselves floating in powerless ships. "What happened?" Marcus demanded. "Report." "Some kind of electromagnetic pulse, sir," his science officer explained, fear in his voice. But it went right through our shields like they weren't even there." "That's impossible." Anna's voice filled their comm systems again. "Your shield technology is impressive, Admiral. Perfect for stopping plasma weapons and energy beams. But you never developed defenses against simpler threats. You never had to." Marcus watched helplessly as his mighty dreadnoughts drifted in space. "Show yourself," he shouted. "As you wish." The Shadow decloaked right in front of the Imperial Glory's bridge. The small black ship seemed to absorb light itself. Its design was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. No bright colors, no decorative elements, just pure function shaped by centuries of war. That tiny ship disabled 3 of our most powerful vessels. Marcus whispered in disbelief. "Psi stopped mattering in war a long time ago," Anna explained. "While your empire grew through peaceful expansion, we learned different lessons. Every war taught us something new. Every conflict forced us to innovate." To demonstrate her point, the Shadow fired a simple projectile at an empty area of space. The Imperial crew watched in confusion until it exploded into a cloud of millions of tiny metal pieces, each smaller than a coin. "Imagine if that was aimed at your ships," Anna said quietly. "Your shields stop energy weapons, but what about millions of small pieces of metal moving at relativistic speeds? Your hulls would be shredded." In Earth's Defense Command, General Wilson watched the demonstration with satisfaction. The Empire needed to understand that humanity's warnings weren't empty threats. They weren't even threats at all, just statements of fact. Anna's voice continued, gentle but firm. "Your ships are beautiful, Admiral. They're impressive monuments to an empire built on peace, but they're not warships. They were never designed to face an enemy who spent their entire history learning how to fight." The Shadow disappeared again, vanishing from all Imperial sensors. The disabled dreadnoughts suddenly powered back up, their systems returning to normal. "That was just one ship, Admiral," Anna concluded. "One of our smallest. We have thousands more, each carrying weapons your sensors can't even detect. Please don't make us use them." Admiral Marcus stood silent, staring at the space where the Shadow had been. His mighty fleet, pride of the Empire, suddenly felt like a collection of beautiful, fragile toys. For the first time, he truly understood what the humans had been trying to tell them. They weren't threatening the Empire. They were trying to save it from its own ignorance. Commander Peter Thomas sat in his office at Earth Intelligence, preparing the data package that would change the Empire's understanding forever. His screen showed thousands of years of human military history, carefully organized to help the aliens understand what they were facing. "Begin transmission to the Imperial fleet," he ordered his AI assistant. "Let's show them who they're dealing with." Aboard the Imperial Glory, Admiral Marcus and his senior staff watched as their main screen filled with images. The first showed ancient humans with spears, hunting massive beasts that towered over them. "From our earliest days," Peter's voice explained, "humans had to fight to survive. Our world wasn't gentle. We weren't the strongest, fastest, or largest species, but we learned to fight, to adapt, to win." The images changed rapidly, armies clashing with swords and shields, castles under siege, ships battling on vast oceans. Each scene showed different weapons, different tactics, but always the same determination to survive. "In just 1,000 years, Peter continued, "we went from fighting with sharpened sticks to splitting atoms." The screen showed the devastating power of humanity's first nuclear weapons. "We did this because we had to, because the alternative was extinction." In the Empire's war room, analysts worked frantically to process the data. Senior analyst John spoke quietly to his team. "Their technological development is impossible. No species advances this quickly." "No peaceful species," one of his colleagues corrected. "Look at these numbers. In just the last 200 years, they've fought more wars than the Empire has in its entire history." The presentation continued, showing how each conflict drove innovation. World War I brought tanks and planes. World War II led to rockets and computers. The Cold War pushed humanity into space and created weapons that could destroy entire planets. But something interesting happened, Peter explained as the images changed again. "We learned from our mistakes. We saw where unlimited war could lead. So we got smarter, more precise." The screen showed modern warfare, invisible drones, cyber attacks that could cripple nations without firing a shot, weapons that could disable without killing. "We learned to win without destroying everything. Because the best victory is one that leaves you something to protect." Admiral Marcus watched in silence as the presentation showed human weapons becoming smaller but more powerful, their ships becoming harder to detect, their tactics evolving from brute force to subtle precision. "You're probably wondering why we're showing you all this," Peter said. "It's not to threaten you. It's to help you understand. Your empire grew through peace, and that's admirable. But it left you vulnerable." The final series of images showed human ships and weapons that even the Empire's best scientists couldn't understand. Technology that seemed to break the laws of physics. Defenses that made ships truly invisible. "In your 10,000 years of peace," Peter concluded, "you never needed to push your technology to its limits. You never had to wonder if your enemy had a weapon you couldn't detect, couldn't stop. We did. Every day of our history, we planned for threats we couldn't even imagine." In Earth's Defense Command, General Wilson watched the transmission with his staff. "Do you think they'll understand?" his assistant asked. Wilson nodded slowly. "They have to. Because if they don't..." He left the sentence unfinished. Everyone knew what would happen if the Empire chose to ignore these warnings. Back on the Imperial Glory, Admiral Marcus turned to his science officer. "Could we have achieved this level of technology?" "Yes, sir," the officer replied quietly. "But we never had a reason to. We never faced threats that forced us to advance so quickly. These humans, they've compressed 10,000 years of military development into just a few centuries." Marcus stared at the final image, a simple comparison showing how human military technology had evolved faster than any species in known space. Not because humans were smarter or better, but because they never had the luxury of peace. They had learned to fight because the alternative was extinction, and now the Empire had to decide. Learn from them or become their next lesson in warfare. The Imperial Glory's library hall was silent except for the soft hum of holographic displays. Chief Historian Mark stood before Admiral Marcus and the War Council, his usual confident expression replaced by worry. For 3 days, he had studied Earth's history with his team, and what they discovered frightened them. "My lords," Mark began, his voice shaking slightly, "we've made a terrible mistake in judging these humans. We thought they were primitive because they hadn't spread beyond their solar system. The truth is far more complex." He waved his hand, and the room filled with a 3-dimensional map of Earth. "Look at their world. Extreme temperature variations, dangerous predators, natural disasters, multiple competing species. Their planet didn't just allow life, it forced life to become stronger or die." Admiral Marcus leaned forward. "Many worlds have harsh conditions. Historian, what makes Earth different?" "Competition, sir." Mark highlighted different regions of Earth. "Unlike most worlds, Earth never had a single dominant species until humans emerged. They had to fight for everything: food, shelter, territory. And then, they had to fight each other." The displays showed early human tribes competing for resources. Most species achieve unity before developing advanced technology. Humans did the opposite. They developed technology because they weren't unified. In Earth's orbital defense station, Commander Bill watched the Imperial ships through advanced sensors. He could see their researchers frantically studying the data Earth had provided. "They're starting to understand," he reported to General Wilson. "Their historians have been analyzing our records nonstop." Back in the Imperial Library, Mark continued his presentation. Every major human advancement came from conflict. Their first tools were weapons. Their first alliances were for war. Their greatest scientific discoveries came from military research. He showed the Council images of human history: the first bronze weapons, iron swords, gunpowder, steam engines, electricity, nuclear power, spaceflight. Each discovery sparked new conflicts, and each conflict drove new discoveries. It's an endless cycle we've never seen before. One of the Council members spoke up. "But surely they had periods of peace, times of cooperation." "Yes," Mark nodded, "but even their peace was different from ours. They call it Cold War, peace enforced by the fear of weapons so powerful they can't be used. They turned their competition to economics, science, and space exploration, but they never stopped preparing for war." The displays showed modern Earth: underground bunkers, hidden weapon factories, stealth technology that made entire armies invisible. "They're not primitive, my lords. They're survivors. Their technology isn't less advanced than ours. It's just focused on different priorities." Admiral Marcus remembered the small human ship that had disabled 3 of his dreadnoughts. "They could have destroyed us at any time, couldn't they?" "Yes, sir," Mark replied quietly. "Our analysts believe they have weapons that could wipe out our entire fleet in seconds. But they chose to warn us instead. That's another thing we've learned about humans. They prefer to avoid unnecessary conflict." In Earth's Defense Command, General Wilson received a message from his intelligence team. The Empire's historians had finally accessed the classified sections of Earth's military archives. Soon, they would understand the full truth. Mark's voice grew more serious. "There's more, my lords. We've discovered why humans haven't expanded beyond their solar system. They're not trapped by primitive technology. They're preparing." The final displays showed massive human shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, weapon platforms disguised as space debris, and defense systems that could destroy entire fleets. They're not expanding because they're fortifying. Every resource, every discovery, every advancement is focused on defending their home. "From what?" Admiral Marcus asked, though he already feared the answer. "From everything," Mark replied. "Their history has taught them to be ready for any threat. While we spent 10,000 years spreading peace across the galaxy, they spent their entire existence preparing for war. Not because they wanted, but because their world gave them no choice. The council chamber fell silent as the truth sank in. The Empire hadn't found a primitive species ready for conquest. They had stumbled upon humanity's fortress solar system, defended by a species that had turned survival into an art form. Admiral Marcus stood alone in his private quarters aboard the Imperial Glory, watching Earth through his viewport. The beautiful blue planet looked peaceful from this distance, but he now knew better. After 5 days of studying human history and capabilities, he faced the hardest decision of his 1,000-year career. His communication screen lit up with urgent messages from the Empire's capital. The High Council wanted answers. Should they attack? Retreat? Try to negotiate? 10,000 years of easy victories hadn't prepared them for this situation. Admiral, his computer announced, the war simulation results are ready. Marcus took a deep breath and opened the report. His best strategic AI had run 10,000 different scenarios for attacking Earth. The results made his hands shake. Best case scenario: the Empire would lose 60% of its fleet before reaching Earth's orbit. Worst case: total destruction within the first hour of combat. A quiet beep announced another transmission from Earth. It was Commander Bill from the Earth Defense Force. Admiral Marcus, we've detected your war simulations. Would you like to see ours? Marcus nodded slowly. His screens filled with new data, Earth's own analysis of potential combat scenarios. They were far more detailed than the Empire's simulations, showing technologies and tactics the Empire hadn't even considered. Your ships are beautiful, Bill said kindly, but they're designed to look impressive and intimidate peaceful worlds. Our ships are designed to survive actual combat. On his tactical display, Marcus watched as hidden human vessels were revealed around every major Imperial world. They had somehow slipped past the Empire's best defenses weeks ago, completely undetected. We don't want to fight you, Bill continued. Look at these numbers carefully. See how many lives would be lost. All for nothing. We don't want your territory. We don't want to rule your worlds. We just want to be left alone. In the Empire's Strategic Command Center, the analysis team reached a shocking conclusion. Lead analyst Tom rushed into the High Council chamber with the final report. My lords, he announced, human guerrilla warfare tactics would devastate our empire. They've already mapped every weakness in our defenses. They know things about our technology that even we don't understand. The council members looked at the data in silence. The Empire had always won through overwhelming force and superior technology. But against humans, those advantages meant nothing. Back on the Imperial Glory, Marcus received another transmission, this time from General Wilson himself. Admiral, Wilson began, in the time we've been talking, we could have destroyed your fleet 100 different ways. But that's not who we want to be. Yes, we're good at war. Yes, we've spent centuries preparing for threats. But our greatest wish is to never need those preparations. Marcus looked at the tactical display again. Human ships could hit the Empire's core worlds before any defense could be mounted. Their stealth technology made them invisible. Their weapons could bypass the Empire's best shields. Why show us all this? Marcus asked. Why reveal your capabilities? Because we respect life, Wilson answered simply. Even potential enemies deserve a chance to avoid unnecessary conflict. We could have kept our capabilities secret, let you attack, taught you the hard way. But too many would die, and for what? Pride, territory. We've had enough of war. Marcus turned to his command staff, who waited nervously for his decision. Attack and face certain defeat, or admit that the Empire had finally met its match. In that moment, Marcus remembered something from the human historical records. The most dangerous enemies weren't the ones who threatened you. They were the ones who warned you, who tried to avoid conflict, who had nothing to prove because they already knew their strength. He looked at Earth again, understanding finally why humans had warned them to run. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even pride. It was mercy. 1 month after the Empire's fleet arrived at Earth, the Grand Meeting Hall of the Imperial Glory hosted an event, unlike any in the Empire's 10,000-year history. Admiral Marcus stood beside General Wilson, watching as human and Imperial representatives signed the first-ever military alliance between Earth and the Empire. "I never thought I'd be signing a partnership agreement instead of accepting a surrender," Marcus said quietly to Wilson. "But I'm glad I am." Wilson smiled. "The best victories are the ones where nobody has to lose." He looked around the hall, where human and Imperial scientists were already sharing ideas. "Your people have so much to teach us about peaceful expansion, and we can help you protect what you've built." On the main screen, the terms of the alliance scrolled past. Earth would remain independent, but would help train the Empire's defense forces. In return, the Empire would share its knowledge of peaceful cooperation between worlds. "Look at this," a young Imperial engineer named Paul said excitedly to his human counterpart, Kate. He showed her the Empire's designs for their fastest ships. "We focused on making them beautiful and impressive." Kate nodded, pointing out ways to improve the shields and weapons. "Beauty is good, but survival is better. See how we can add these defensive systems without changing the appearance." Across the hall, Imperial diplomats learned about Earth's history from Commander Bill. "So you're saying that preparing for war actually helped you maintain peace?" one asked. "Exactly," Bill replied. "When you're strong enough that nobody wants to fight you, you have more freedom to be peaceful. But you have to remember why you wanted peace in the first place." Admiral Marcus walked to the center of the hall, raising his hand for attention. "Today marks a new chapter for both our civilizations," he announced. "The Empire learned a valuable lesson from Earth. True strength isn't just in having power, it's in knowing when not to use it." General Wilson joined him. "And Earth learned something too. We've spent centuries preparing for enemies, but today we found friends instead. Friends who can help us build something better than just defenses." In Earth's orbit, human and Imperial ships patrolled together. The sleek golden vessels of the Empire now carried hidden weapons and shield upgrades designed by human engineers. Meanwhile, Earth's dark stealth ships had been modified with some of the Empire's more efficient power systems. Back in the meeting hall, Marcus turned to Wilson with a worried look. "There's something we haven't discussed yet. If Earth was so prepared for threats like us, what were you really preparing for?" Wilson's face grew serious. "We've detected signals from beyond the galaxy's edge. Something's out there, Admiral. Something that makes our weapons look like toys. That's why we fortified our solar system instead of expanding. That's why we developed stealth technology and planetary defenses." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "How long do we have?" "Maybe a century, maybe less." Wilson managed a small smile. "But now we don't face it alone. Your Empire's ability to unite worlds peacefully, combined with our defensive capabilities. Together we might stand a chance." Marcus looked out at the gathering, where humans and Imperials worked together, sharing knowledge and building trust. The Empire had come to Earth expecting to find primitives ready for conquest. Instead, they found teachers, protectors, and allies. "To think," Marcus said, "if we hadn't listened to your warning to run, we might have missed all this. We might have started a war instead of preparing for one that really matters." Wilson nodded. "Sometimes the best way to prevent a fight is to show that you're ready for one. Earth and the Empire, working together, we can build something greater than either of us could alone." As the celebration continued, a new message was being broadcast across both Earth and Imperial space. "Today marks the beginning of a new era. Two civilizations, one born of peace and one forged in war, united to protect all we've built. Together, we stand ready for whatever comes next." The Empire had come looking for an easy conquest. They found instead humanity's greatest gift, the wisdom to avoid unnecessary wars by being prepared to win them.